Okay,
Yes.
so
Good.
my presentation is about preparing teachers to teach from a global perspective. How can we teach students for jobs that have not yet been created, to tackle societal challenges that have not yet imagined, and to use technologies that have not yet been invented? How can we equip them to succeed in an interconnected world where they need to understand and appreciate different perspectives, interact respectfully with others, care for sustainability and collective well-being? How can we make them eager for a just world? Be aware, for example, of a fair vaccine distribution in a reality of a world pandemic. How can we prepare teachers to teach in this complex and rapidly changing reality? Indeed, educational systems around the world are dealing with growing and ongoing interests for framing the knowledge, values, and competences necessary for the student's success in the 21st century global world. For example, as you can see in the presentation, the OECD suggested an actionable and multi-directional learning framework which is both globally relevant and flexible enough for local contextualization. It was titled the Learning Compass 2030, which indicates the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values students need in order to shape a better world. In this framework context, a set of 4 target aims has come to be known as global competences: the capacity to examine issue and situation of local, global, and cultural significance, the capacity to understand and appreciate different perspectives and worldviews, the ability to establish positive interaction with people of different national, ethnic, religious, social, or cultural background or gender, the capacity of disposition to take constructive action towards sustainable development and collective well-being. It is worth noting that these aims were criticized as may be intended to direct the debate on global competences. This OECD framework has shifted its focus from learning for 2030 to teaching for 2030, thus exploring the types of teacher competences and teacher profiles that can help all students realize their potential. It seems that as technology becomes a major vehicle for transmitting knowledge, the relational aspects of teaching, being a good coach or a mentor, will remain human capacities of enduring value. In this regard, the purpose of the current study was to identify the factors that motivate student teachers to be trained and to teach from a global education perspective. We assume that exploring these motivational factors may be useful for teacher educators to discuss and to take a proactive part in integrating more clearly global education orientation in the training programs. This study was conducted according to the quantitative paradigm, using a questionnaire with closed questions. Participants were requested to complete the questionnaire without mention of any personal identifying details. This was a random sample consisted of 150 student teachers, all females, enrolled in their first year in a teacher education program. What were the factors that motivated student teachers to learn global perspective? We conducted an exploratory factors analysis, and you can see that 3 factors were yield from the statistical method. The table that you can see in the slide summarizes the 3 motivational factors for learning from global education perspective. The social justice aspect, for example, learning about justice and equity, human rights, prejudices, and discrimination. The didactic and multicultural aspect, for example, learning about other cultural traditions, how to teach global issues, and experience lessons planning for multicultural classroom. And the last one, the competitive instrumental aspect, for example, to compete in the global market job, to make valuable international experience, and to know how to prepare students to compete in the global job market. We also asked about the factors that motivated student teachers to teach from global education perspective. The exploratory factor analysis also found two main factors that motivated them to teach from a global education perspective. As you can see in this slide, in table 4, the two motivational factors for teaching from global education perspective were the social justice approach, for example, to be able to recognize injustice situations. This approach advances modern teaching goals. This means preparing learners for life in the global area, with an emphasis on cosmopolitan skills, which include knowledge of cultures and technologies. The second approach, the knowledge skills and multicultural approach, for example, helping students to understand global issues as a basis for their future success. This approach advances postmodern teaching goals. This means the teacher and the learner are perceived as activists who work to preserve the values of social as well as environmental justice. An interesting finding was that among all participants, there was a significant preference to teach global education by adapting the social justice approach. As teachers, educators in a global area, these results raise two practicable questions for discussion. What can we learn from the student-teacher motivational factors for learning and teaching global education? How can we use these factors to train student teachers effectively for teaching in the 21st century? At the beginning of our research, we conducted a matrix which takes into account all the dimensional of the factors for teachers to be able to express their perception of global education and to teach by adopting these motivational factors. Thank you.